Back on Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta, reminding you head over to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta in your browser, find us, subscribe, give us a review, tell us what you think about the show, and of course, at JMCH316 is my personal Twitter page. Obviously, it was a monumental draft for the University of Georgia and the Bulldog program. 5 defensive players taken, most first rounders, most players on one side of the football, drafted, 15 total picks, all this, that, and the other. What a great season, right? And you say to yourself, man, what an unbelievable year. How do you run it all back? But I'm going to give you a whole bunch of names. Don't sleep on how good next year's draft and even going into 2024 could be. You look at every sort of mock draft, top 100 board, this, that, and the other. Right now, Kelee Ringo, Nolan Smith, and Jalen Carter are pretty much top 15 picks on everybody's board. I've seen all 3 of those guys in the top 10. I've seen Smith as low as like 15. I've seen Kelee Ringo as low as about 12 to 15. But you've got 3 more guys that are first rounders. And then you have guys that are trying to make a name for themselves and trying to work their way into not just into the draft, but increase their draft stock. From Chris Smith to Arik Gilbert, Broderick Jones, Cedric Van Pran, Robert Beal Jr., Darnell Washington, Kendall Milton, Jermaine Burton, Tate Ratledge, MJ Sherman. Now, think about the list of all of those guys. Now, I'm not saying they're all going to get drafted and they're all going to be first round in this and the other, but you're already starting with probably 3. Let's even dumb down the expectations a little bit, okay? You're starting with 3 guys that are probably top 20 picks from the very jump. And we just talked about 5 guys getting drafted in the first round for UGA and what accomplishment. You already have 3 guys that are being looked at as first rounders. And that's after you lost all of those other guys. And not to mention, go a couple of years in the future when Brock Bowers and, Mims and some of these guys, there's potential for those guys to be first rounders as well. But it's very possible that while Georgia may not replicate what they did this past year and the historic draft that it was, and that's what it was historic. He had all these guys taken, and obviously the defensive side of the football, just an unbelievably special group about it. But I just gave you, 3 guys that are defensive players that are already top 20 looking at picks. And don't think for a second that, and especially if some of these guys end up having big rookie years and this and that, don't think when you see UGA's pro day next year, you already see Belichick and this guy and Tomlin and this guy. It's going to be loaded. It's going to be overloaded. I would be amazed if there's not every single either head coach and or GM at UGA's pro day next year after what they did. And so you start projecting into the future. As crazy it is to think, Georgia may, in the first round, almost replicate what they did this year. Yeah, you're only talking about you need to find 2. Look, Arik Gilbert, for all his issues of this, that, and the other, is 247's highest rated tight end prospect in the history of their rankings. In the history of their rankings. If he can come back and be a focal point of the offense and a feature player, who knows? I mean, he's got first round capability all over him. Chris Smith could have first round capability all over him. There are so many guys when you start to project. Think about all the good running backs that are coming into the NFL next year. And then you take, Kendall Milton and some of these guys. I'm just saying that don't think that Georgia had this kind of once in a lifetime, this is great, let's celebrate all the draft picks and first rounders, and then we'll just kind of move about our business. No, they're going to be loaded for bear in next year's draft and then even projecting out to 2024. I mean, Brock Bowers, hell, if he could come out today, if he could come out in 2023's draft, would probably be a first-round talent. That's how good this kid is. And again, Mims and all these guys. Mims, considered to be, one of the best offensive line prospects in the country. He flirted with leaving Georgia, went to Florida State to meet with those guys and came back and all this, that, and the other. Georgia loaded up on the offensive line end. So it may not be 5 defensive players and this, that, and the other, but you've got 3 guys right now that are sitting there in the top tier. Ringo, I've seen Ringo in mocks already as a top 10 pick. I've seen Nolan Smith mocked as a top 10 pick. I've seen Jalen Carter mocked as a top 5 or 6 pick in the NFL. And that's the influence, and that's what you try to build. You want to be Alabama? You want to be Clemson? Cool. Historic draft. Can't believe it. Then you turn around the next year and it's like, whoa, wait a second. I didn't see all that coming. I didn't realize that they had that many guys that were still on that roster that were so talented. Yeah, they do. They do. And that's why Georgia's not going to be projected less. Worst case scenario for Georgia is Alabama and Ohio State are 1-2. If you want to mix and mash those, I don't really care. Bama's going to be number 1 because they have 2 of the 3 best college football players coming back. Heisman Trophy quarterback, best defensive player, top 3 or 4 defensive player in the country that's going to get picked in the NFL draft. No doubt about it. Ohio State's going to be number 1 or 2 in your polls because they have the best collection, of offensive personnel in the country. Henderson at running back, Smith and Jigba at wide receiver. Their wide receiver room is better this year than it was with Garrett Wilson and Olave. It's better. Those guys even said it. Wilson and Olave even said these guys are better than us. And Stroud, maybe the Heisman, loaded. But right behind them is the University of Georgia. And they're going to be right there sitting in a prime position. They're most likely going to run through the East. I don't really think that they're going to get beat by anybody in the East. Yeah, Florida may be better. They have a potential high draft pick NFL quarterback, which I'm still wrapping my arms around. I don't know how Anthony Richardson is all of a sudden now this top 5-8 quarterback drafted. Yeah, the kid out of Kentucky, Levis is, now all of a sudden he's projected to be top 5-10. Okay, I got to see that to believe all that. I think Kentucky's pretty good. They may be the second best team. They've got their quarterback. They've got maybe the best running back in the conference and in Rodriguez, or at least one of them, this, that, and the other. Okay, but don't sleep on how good Georgia's draft is going to be again next year. Start looking at the mocks. Start looking at everybody's top 100. I think you're going to be amazed to see how many Georgia Bulldogs are already being talked about in that. We'll see. Should be another great draft for Kirby and the Bulldogs. All right, we appreciate everybody being a part of the show today. Thanks for listening in, and I want you to head over to YouTube and check out our page there, Locked On Sports Atlanta. We thank you for making us your first listen. Don't forget, make your second listen ATL Day Ones. My friends Jarvis Davis and Tanitra Batiste, speaking to the heart of the city of Atlanta, talking Bulldogs, Falcons, Hawks, Braves. You take your pick of everything out there. Just a couple of folks having a good conversation. Stay a while. Be a part of all of that. ATL Day Ones is part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. Free and available where you check out all of your podcasts. And, of course, give me a follow on my personal Twitter page. That would be at JMCH316. We hope you have a great rest of the day. Back with you tomorrow. This has been Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta.